Welcome! Today we're going to learn a little bit more about the hydrologic cycle, better known as the water cycle. We all know that when clouds come, it rains, and somehow water always seems to get from the oceans, lakes, and rivers to the sky and back again. But how? The water cycle consists of multiple processes all occurring simultaneously. The main processes are evaporation, transpiration, condensation, precipitation, surface runoff, and infiltration. Now, all of these words may seem daunting now, so let's break it down step by step. First, let's start with evaporation. Evaporation is the starting point of the water cycle. It is a process where water changes from a liquid to a gaseous state. But this physical change doesn't happen spontaneously. It requires energy from the sun's radiation as well as other factors such as the air temperature, vapor pressure, wind, and atmospheric pressure to take place. Evaporation can occur just about anywhere there is water, but the main locations of evaporation are at the surfaces of seas and lakes. Much like evaporation, transpiration also refers to the process of liquid water turning into water vapor, a gas. The difference between the two is that transpiration involves the water found on plants. As plants absorb the water in the soil, the roots push that water towards the leaves to use during photosynthesis. Any excess water gets pushed out of the leaves through stomata, which are like pores on a leaf. Key point to remember is that the driving force of the whole hydrologic cycle is the sun, which provides the necessary energy to turn water into water vapor during evaporation and transpiration. So why don't we see big drops of water rising to the sky then? Well, this is because as H2O particles heat up, they get excited and start moving farther away from each other. Just like we can't see gases like helium or oxygen as water changes to water vapor, we can no longer see the particles with the naked eye. Okay, let's take a second to review. Pop quiz. What is the difference between evaporation and transpiration? If you said that transpiration involves the extra water pushed through plants while evaporation involves the surface of bodies of water, then you are correct. Okay, back to the water cycle. Now that we have all of that water vapor building up in the atmosphere, we see condensation occur. Condensation is the process where the gaseous water vapor that has been brought into the atmosphere changes its physical state, most commonly back into a liquid. This happens when the water vapor reaches high altitudes, like on these mountains here, where the temperature is lower. Just like the heat evaporated the water and changed it into a gas, the low temperatures now begin to change the water vapor back into a liquid state, or if it's cold enough, a solid snowflake. You might be wondering where clouds come from. Well, this is how they're made. As the vapor cools off and starts to change back into a liquid, the particles move closer together and condense, hence the term condensation. As the particles move closer together, we start to see clouds, no longer just a gas, but not still quite water. We instead get clouds or fog. Take a second and think about other places where you see condensation occurring. How about foggy days in San Francisco, or the beads of water that form on a cold water bottle out on a hot summer day? Or even the dew on your front lawn. Condensation happens everywhere. Soon enough, all of that condensed water vapor becomes heavy and pours down with wind or temperature change in a process called precipitation. If the temperature lowers, the H2O particles move close together and lose energy. This causes them to create bigger droplets and fall as water due to gravity. If the temperature is above 32 degrees Fahrenheit, then we see rain. If it is under 32 degrees, we see snow. Precipitation can also take the form of hail, sleet, or a kind of mist. Let's take another second to review. What is it that makes condensation precipitation? Is it A, wind moves the water molecules closer together and form bigger droplets? B, the cooler temperatures make the water molecules lose energy and condense to make rain? C, the gravity pulls the heavier droplets to the ground, or D, all of the above. If you answered D, you are correct. Now let's pick up where we left off. As precipitation occurs, the falling water can go back to bodies of water, like lakes, rivers, and oceans, to be evaporated again, or it can fall onto the ground. This can lead to runoff. Runoff is the process where water runs over the Earth's surface. This happens as any water that doesn't soak into the soil will collect and take parts of the topsoil across the Earth's surface, eventually moving into streams and rivers that lead to the ocean. Melting snow can also cause this. However, some of the precipitated water does not run off and instead gets absorbed into the earth in a process called infiltration or percolation. Infiltration occurs as the fallen water percolates through the different layers of the earth by the forces of gravity and increases the level of groundwater. Groundwater is the water within the soil or rock crevices that is pure and drinkable. After all this happens, the cycle starts over again. Very cool. But why does it matter? Well, where to begin? For one, changes in the hydrologic cycle can lead to some major climatic shifts. For example, as global temperatures continue to rise, polar ice caps start to melt, which rises the sea level. Also, like we learned earlier, the water will expand with the rising temperatures, making the ocean levels even higher. Higher temperatures means more water and more evaporation, accelerating the water cycle altogether. In turn, more precipitation will happen, possibly leading to more severe weather conditions. Not only that, but as populations increase, the amount of groundwater for us to use depletes. Groundwater takes thousands, if not millions of years to naturally replenish. If we continue using these resources faster than they can replenish and continue to pollute our waters, that means the whole hydrologic cycle can be affected. Now you've become an expert at the water cycle, let's see how much you can remember. Let's start from the top. As water heats up and turns into water vapor, what process occurs? The answer is evaporation. Now, as the vapor cools down in high altitudes, what does it do? The answer is condense to form clouds. If the clouds become too dense, wind and low temperatures along with gravity will cause what part of the cycle to occur? The answer is precipitation. As the rain falls onto the ground, what two processes begin? The answer is runoff and infiltration. Nice job, and thanks for listening.